Good morning. Welcome to Core Services and our Core Belief Series, Why It Matters. And today we're going to be discussing the expectations of management and how it's perceived from the owners as well as the board of directors point of view. I'm John Coggle and I'm today's presenter. A little bit about Core Service before we begin. Core focuses on audit and review services in Oregon and Washington, primarily around condos and HOAs. And we also offer advisory services where we can do board meeting observations to help boards work towards a more efficient and effective board meeting. And we also offer vote supervision where you might have contentious issues that you want an independent vote count to be performed. So today we're going to discuss why it really matters who sets the expectation and what people can do about it as it pertains to the management company that is, or the manager that oversees the condo and HOA associations that we work with, and also management in general, even in companies, especially where there's an owner who may be a somewhat absentee owner, not involved in the day-to-day management. So this comes from an engagement we were in where we were assisting a group of homeowners who were in a disagreement with their board and their management company about how certain things were handled, especially related to a special assessment. So how it worked was the board set a special assessment and they really tried to make this a quote-unquote serial assessment. We'll get into that in another one. We've covered that before, but needless to say, it's not GAAP if you want to do it that way. Management recorded it, and they tried to record it as a serial assessment. The problem is when the CPAs performed a review, which is allowed in Oregon, the CPA said the financial statements were prepared in accordance with GAAP. That was a problem, obviously. A couple of years later, they recognized the problem. They went back, changed the underlying accounting. We believe they got it wrong when they went back and tried to put the special assessment receivable on the books. That's a detail. The problem obviously becomes here we are towards the end of it. All the owners have allegedly paid all their outstanding balance, but the bank loan still is outstanding about $100,000. So somewhere along the way there was a mismatch. The total paid to the bank was about $1.5 million between principal and interest, and the total amount collected from the owners from the special assessment and the interest charges on the outstanding balances only came to 1.2. The difference, part of that difference was actually amounts that they took out of the reserve fund to pay the bank loan, which is why the bank had a $100,000 balance outstanding, and the owner's special assessment was zero. This is one of those perfect storm situations where you hope like hell it never happens, and yet when it does, there's lots of blame to spread around to everybody. And so understanding that's where we started from, this really comes down to what does a board expect of management? And Doug's book, Trade HOA Stress for Success, does cover this quite a bit. But a board oftentimes just wants three primary things. Remember, what they want is somebody who's just going to be able to handle the day-to-day operation, because they only want to spend maybe 2 to 3 hours a month maximum on providing that oversight and making decisions. So what does the board really want? Well, the board is looking for competence. They want tasks performed accurately. They want to know that when something has been done, it's been done right. That it doesn't have to be redone in 2 or 3 months, that they've hired the right people. You issue complete and accurate financial reports, which is a large part of the board's responsibility is financial oversight. And so when they receive a financial package from the manager, they want to know that it's accurate. They expect the manager to hire appropriate professionals, especially contractors. Not to go too far afield, but we've actually had to withdraw from an engagement where the managers did not hire licensed contractors, and it's a violation of public policy. It was a violation of the management contract, and their excuse was, well, when we originally talked to them 3 years ago, they were licensed. Yes, but what can we do? You violated the law. The law says you must hire only licensed contractors, and here we had to where an unlicensed contractor working on a project. Bad, right? So, and ultimately, you also expect them to follow best practices over money. Again, another issue we hammer on where there's no where there's no approvals, there's no controls. One person decides on who to give money to, and then they approve the check being written. They want integrity. I won't cover too much, but I mean, it makes sense. They want to know that whoever they're assigning it to has integrity, own the problem, and create the appropriate solution. And if they got it wrong, fix it. And at the end of the day, they don't want to pay a lot of money for routine processes. So, again, I mean, can the manager work on cutting down the amount of time it takes to perform routine tasks, and can they get back on an issue? What are the owners who basically vote for the board to represent them in their dealings with the managers? What is an owner's expectation? At the end of the day, all an owner really wants to know is, do they know how much money that they have to pay, and can we live within that budget? Because an owner only has a finite amount of resources to spend on assessments to keep the association looking pretty and dealing with problems. Does the manager address concerns timely? Think about it. When a condo, when you submit a maintenance request, if it takes 6 months, you're not happy. If you can live with a certain amount of delay, but obviously the quicker they respond, the happier the homeowners are. And does when it comes down to how addressing that concern timely, does the owner understand the process? Do they know that they go to the website as opposed to make a phone call? I mean, all this is set by the manager, and so the more they share with the owners, the more effective that relationship is. And do they take that owner request seriously? Again, think about it. If you want to know whether the money is being spent wisely, you set a budget. Are they within budget? If they're going over budget, do they talk to the board and ask the board if it's okay to spend this additional money? That's all you want as an owner. You don't want to be involved, otherwise you'd be on the board of directors. When you take that seriously? I'm thinking of moving out. I need to know how much money I owe so I can make sure it gets reported correctly to closing, so that we can do the swap, right? If you can't report that timely, and you're not going to take it seriously, understand you're putting me under a great deal of stress just trying to sell my unit or maybe even buy one. And yes, emergency repairs. And if you've been very clear on what's an emergency so that the owners know what to do. So, you're setting these expectations, whether they're written or they're not. I mean, this all comes down to that level of trust, and the more managers kind of set these things up and blow them up, these expectations are no longer being met. You get dissatisfaction, and then you get this risk where an owner says, I've had enough, it is time to hold people accountable. Unfortunately, as I've tried to explain to this group, most of the law is written to where people there is no accountability in especially condo law. Absent finding where there's a theft or an embezzlement, absent finding where a board member has a clear trail of self-aggrandizement, what also known as private inurement, where they got special benefit from their sitting in that position, it's hard to hold people accountable. And there's a public policy reason. If board members could be held accountable, they probably would not have people wanting to sit on boards. They knew there was a financial risk. And the more we try to hold managers accountable, I think that managers should have a lot of accountability outside of just having to answer to an audit. But the reality is, if you make it too onerous on them with too many restrictions, you're not going to have effective quality management being performed at a reasonable cost. The price will go up. And they're trying to walk this fine balance, again, between excesses and perfect expectations. And there is no right or wrong. It's just something we all have to understand. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. You can always find us on the web at core-accd.com. You can feel free to fill out our contact page, and we'd love to answer any questions you have. You're more than welcome to contact me on Twitter. And you can also find Doug and me on LinkedIn at these addresses. So anyway, hope you have a great day. We look forward to our next presentation with you.